everyone, welcome to another edition of Pele Yoetz. Today we are starting a new chapter, and that's the letter Gimel. So we're actually on chapter 3 or section 3 because there's like so many mini chapters in between. This one is going to start out right with a bang because we're talking about redemption, and it's the Geulah, And I think it's funny because we as a nation, we are waiting for the Geulah, the big one, the mighty one. But I think in this generation, every one of us is waiting for that personal one. A lot of us are struggling with a lot of hardships, a lot of pain, struggles, whether we're watching our loved ones suffer through something and we feel helpless about it, or if we ourselves are suffering through something and we feel helpless about it. I used to say, for those of you who know my story, I used to say about my ancestors that I really was shocked that a person like me came from such great people because, they had to endure a lot of things, and they did it in spite of the fact that perhaps many of them did not see that Geulah in their lifetime. And I think that's got to be one of the biggest struggles that a lot of us go through when we're suffering and we're really hurting and we don't see any end in sight to it. And there's a real possibility that we're not going to see an end in sight of it. And we don't understand it all the time, especially when we're in the midst of it. I think it's very easy if we're on the outside looking into someone's situation. And of course, all of a sudden, we see it so clearly. And there's all this, it's a kapera, it's a tikkun, it's this, it's that. And we got all this knowledge, but for our own situation, it's very hard to see that. And I used to say that about my ancestors, that I don't really know. I don't know if I could have passed such a test. And I have to tell you that I am currently going through a situation. I'm kind of glad that HaShem has given me this opportunity to kind of speak about it, because it kind of turns all that darkness into light. And I hope that this chapter gives it hizuk. But I myself am going through something very, very difficult, very, very painful. It's been going on for 3 months. And it happens to be a work situation, believe it or not. It's a work situation. And I don't know that I'm going to see an end in sight. Can you believe, there may not be, there'll be a happy ending. Of course, it's not the one that I would have written, and I think for a lot of us, that's what where the frustration comes in, that we have our own ending that we want to write. And of course, HaShem has his ending. And sometimes reconciling the two of those is very, very difficult. I think this is where Amalek comes in, because it starts to build that doubt, and it starts to really eat at us, and we start to become resentful, and then we start doing a cheshbon of all the things that have happened in our life that didn't go well, and blah blah blah. Very dangerous territory to get into. Nevertheless, it's very difficult to kind of climb out of that. And there's a great book that really talks about how to do this. It's such a smartly written book, and it's written by Harav Ginsburg. And I was thinking of doing a series on that because I felt like it is such a much needed topic in this generation. I think the truth is we are all struggling. We're very much struggling. A lot of us did not have these from birth lifestyles. And I got to tell you that even if you did, we're starting to see more and more that does not guarantee that someone will have this easy life. And the truth is, if you look in the Torah, I don't know that we've ever seen anyone who's had just this easy life. And again, it becomes very difficult for us to reconcile that. So we're going to get into it. I'm very sorry. This was like an extremely long intro. But I think it's much needed because I think a lot of us are hurting. A lot of us are looking for answers. And sometimes we feel like it's very silent out there. So let's get into it. It says, may redemption come quickly in our days. Amen. So must a person believe with absolute faith. This is one of the fundamentals of our religion. It is one of the questions that a person will be asked on the day of judgment, as written in Shabbat 31a. Did you yearn for the redemption? We will write more about this in the entry of Zipui. It is one of the signs of a true believer and a person who anticipates salvation, that about everything of which he speaks in the distant future he will say, May Kadosh Baruch Hu bring forth the redemption. Likewise, he should not build many enormous multi-story houses with stucco plastered walls in a foreign land. Someone whose heart is ready and confident sits with daily anticipation that the day of God is near, in which he will gather those who are dispersed, and we will rise and go up to the mountain of God, the place of the Beit HaMikdash. And a person should not affix his dwelling in a beautiful home in a spiritually defiled land. So this is very, it's funny because a lot of people say, "Why don't you own a home?" It's for this reason. I think we learned our lesson in Spain, right? So we're not going to repeat that lesson here. When Mashiach comes, I'm out of here. Like I already got like my daily clothes ready. So it says, especially since in our days are like a passing shadow, and we are strangers in this world. The life of a man in this world is vain, and whether he enjoys much good or he experiences evil in his days, it is basically the same, because a man really does not know what is good. So this is one of those sayings, right? Like Hashem's ways are not our ways, and what we call good is really, the emet is that it could be really known as evil, and what we call evil could really be known as good. And again, this is where a lot of that personal suffering comes from. We don't realize what it's saving us from, what it's building for us in Olam Haba. And it becomes very difficult because sometimes I think for some of us, Olam Haba just seems so far away, and we're dealing with the here and now, and it feels like a very long journey. So it says, the only certain good is that through a person's toil, he provides satisfaction for his Creator. Therefore, it's not appropriate to desire the redemption for the sake of repose and seeing the good. Rather, one should only desire the redemption in order to better serve God, for the sake of the honor of the divine presence, and for the honor of our Father in heaven. The heavenly grief is so great that our mind is incapable of comprehending it. It says the redemption is the ultimate fruit of our deeds and prayers. This is the whole of man. So again, this whole concept of Geulah, not only of the Geulah, but for our own Geulah, it's such a deep concept, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult on a good day to really grasp this concept of redemption, and how apropos, because we're speaking about this, and Purim, we're in between. It's like Purim Shushan, and we're in between those days and right before Pesach. Very difficult. I'm not even going to pretend that I know the answers, only to tell you that I myself know the struggle. That I know. The answer I don't know. The struggle I know very well. And it is difficult. But I have to say, what I said in the beginning about I don't know that I could have passed their test. And I take that back. I take that back because there are a lot of things that have gone on in my life that that actually happened. Very bad things happened, executed, and then when you get into your studying and you start to realize that everything comes from HaShem, this really can cause a lot of problems. It caused a very deep conversation, not only for myself and HaShem, but I think for a lot of people that you ask this question of why. And of course, a lot of times I say to people, it's like you feel like you're being punished for something that you can't remember that you did. It's a very harsh punishment, and you can't remember what you did. And who knows? And it's not always that we're being punished for something, but sometimes I think it feels that way. And I used to think that I could not pass the test of my ancestors. And today I say that I think in my own way that I am. I think that there's a lot of things that not only have happened, in which, of course, I would have chosen that they would not have happened, but they happen. And there are things that are going on now that are happening. And again, if you ask me, I would choose that they would not happen. Nonetheless, I think to hold on to Hashem in the midst of such incredible challenges, not just for me, for anyone who's doing it, I think in that sense we are doing it, right? We're doing what our ancestors also did, that they kept going even after. And, I had an episode of, it was actually on Adorn with Dignity. I think it was day 21. It was the decree of the czar, of the decree of the czar. And I kind of touched on that fact. Sometimes we see people and we're so quick to judge them about what they are and what they're not observing. And I find this like not a useful thing to do, because we really don't know what a person is or has gone through, and we don't know. You have no idea, like that haphazard mitzvah that they're doing, it could be being done with all the strength that they have. That may be like, they may be so ready to walk away. They may be ready to just throw it all away. And the fact that they're doing that one mitzvah, they're holding on, even though, a quote unquote redemption did not happen in whatever situation they're going through. And this is like a real thing that people are going through. And I think a lot of people they just fall off the derech because they're struggling with this concept of why are bad things happening to good people? Why are the good, and we see this question over and over again. All I can tell you is that I can attest that HaShem is holding on to us. And, I think for all the things that even I struggle with and all my knucklehead angst and, I can't get out of my own way, it's very comforting to know that there's this peace, this very real piece of me that's deep inside, that is a true part of HaShem, and it never gets tainted or tarnished. It doesn't get defiled. And for that alone, HaShem will come and he will rescue. And I don't know what that means for any, that can mean different things for different people. But nevertheless, the saying, Yeshua Hashem Akerevain, Hashem's salvation can come in an instant. And even if the sword is cutting on your throat, don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. A lot of people are struggling with this. I hope that more people would come out and speak about this, even what they're struggling with personally, just to help someone else. Because I think sometimes people look at us and they think we have it all together and we're not suffering anything. And the truth is, I'll just speak for myself. I still go through a lot of hurt and a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges. And that's part of what, my journey has been about with you guys, just sharing all of that. It's like the adventures of Devorah Esther. But I think a lot of us go through that. But we're all in this together. And that was the great thing about the fast of Esther, that, when you're divided, there's nothing like a good fast that we can all relate to. It doesn't matter if you're conservative, you're reform. If you're fasting, we're in this together. And I hope that in our pain that we can relate to one another, whether you are observant, not observant, whatever it is. If you're Yidden, this concept you understand, and in that you can relate to someone else. And for if no other reason, you can relate to your brother and sister at this very point of pain. And I pray that though we go lie down in weeping, we'll rise up in joy. And speaking of joy, always a great time with you all. And I hope to be with all of you again soon. Bezrat HaShem.